Welcome to Talking in Stations. I am Meteorol. It is December 10th, and the Winter Nexus actually just came out. That's the event season for the end of the year. Kind of like the, just say Christmas holiday or end of the year holiday, whatever religion or culture you're from. And we'll check in on that. We'll have more information later in the week with Ashrathi since he follows that really closely, but we'll have a look at that. And then today we'll talk about some CCP news that came out. You'll want to know what's going on with drones, trust me. And then we'll get to some nullsec and war news. But with me today, I want to introduce some new face. This is Strata. How's it going, Strata?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good. Tell us a little bit about your background, Strata, because you're like a new face around TIS, and I found you really interesting, and that's why I dragged you onto this show against your will.
Yeah. I've been mostly, I guess, unlike a lot of your other guests that are involved in the wars, etc. I've been I keep to myself with my generally with a small group of people with a small gang warfare. Really, just trying to play Eve for the PvP and the just the general fun of it.
Mm. So you hung out. I think you were on air one time, just your voice, and that got you into a ton of trouble, right? Or something like that happened. Tell us what happened.
Yeah, no, I'm still corpless as it stands. But yeah, I accidentally commingled Discord and TeamSpeak and heard a voice on the Discord and then spoke in TeamSpeak and immediately got just without warning got erased from the corporation. So I'm still scrambling to figure that one out. So it's dangerous.
They thought you were a spy because you were answering something they didn't ask, and they're like, he's definitely on two comms.
Apparently this is something that happens. They themselves suggested that they're on multiple different comms, and it's a way of spotting people who have two allegiances.
Well, there was a Titan that was destroyed. Goonswarm killed their own guy because he was talking on the wrong comms like that. Certain situation. They later investigated and figured out that they screwed up and he shouldn't have been executed. And it was kind of cool because Matani came out and said, like, when we screw up, we admit it. So we're admitting that we screwed up and killed our own guy. So we're going to give him a brand new Titan. So you're not alone. But what are you prepared to say what corporation or what alliance kicked you out for talking on the wrong comms?
Well, I was only briefly with dock workers. So that was the alliance I was with, and yeah, so I'm still trying to rectify it with my corp leader at the moment. Unfortunately, he's super busy with work and everything like that. So I think they're erring on the side of safety before they investigate it, and I'm having a good time. Just there's a lot of fun you can have in Eve even without having a corporation. There are plenty of people who just want to kind of fly in kind of pickup games, kind of like pickup football here in the United States. Just go play a game, just join a group of people and go shoot some people.
Meet strangers, yeah. Actually,
yeah.
Incursions was really good for that. What is it now? What do you do to do a pickup game?
So I mean, there's a lot of just the usage of the filament. So again, the fact that Jita can now be this location where everybody can just form up. Somebody says a ship or a type of ship, either like nano or like armor or something like that, and now everybody can easily buy a ship and then you filament out and you go fight. So it's almost akin to kind of the old thing, old games where you would have to find a server to go play on and you go around with people.
I have to say that was some of the most fun I had was when Incursions started. Just answering a call to say, hey, we need a Logi in there, or we need some DPS, and you would go back and forth negotiating what you had versus what they needed. But once you got in, you were meeting new people and you were all working towards a goal together. I thought that was kind of rare in Eve. It's nice to see that still happens, though.
Yeah, I think there's a common goal just go have fun. There's nothing on the line. There's no, I guess there's an opportunity for somebody to I don't know, be a spy and then like scram a fleet member and everybody else comes in. But for the most part, the people who are in Jita looking for these fleets are just looking for a good roam and just a good bit of small gang PvP.
Cool. Last few questions. Do you like FC at all, or are you just a PvPer?
Yeah, I've done a bit of FCing in the past, but I think I came back recently after a little bit of a break, and I tried to FC, and then I realized that because I was so rusty, I needed to focus on flying my own ship first rather than trying to like explain to other people how to fly their ships at the same time. So I've done a little bit, and it can be fun. And I tend to be the person that kind of right now who's the backup FC. So and that's a kind of an important role. If the FC gets headshot, somebody has to jump in there and quickly and with some confidence just start calling. Unless of course you've got somebody who's been preordained as that individual, because the amount of fleet fights I've been in that where nobody's been called the secondary FC, and everyone just panics and just one guy's warping away, the other guy's tackled, he needs to get somebody pulled off of him, and you just lose so many more ships that way.
Yeah, I'll tell you, people panic even in NC Dot. When I was in NC Dot, I went with my friends to and it was like just a group of friends, and we're like, let's do a little corp roam or something, and we went, and these guys jumped us and one of us died, and we deconstructed like what had happened, and we were like, hey, you were the one that should have prevented that, and you took off first. You were the Ewar guy that was supposed to break that lock so our logi didn't get stuck and all this other stuff. It was kind of funny to like figure out like, hey, there is a breakdown in people's roles because there's panic involved even at that level. But
yeah, I mean, if you don't know whether or not you're engaging or disengaging, that can be the matter of everybody getting out or people just getting slowly picked off. So that call alone is pretty massive.
Oh, actually, that's very true, right? You make that decision quickly, and then there's no going back once you've already hit warp and stuff. All right. Well, listen, it's really cool to meet you and to have you around. I hope you stick around. One more thing. I forgot to ask, what was like your history? How long have you been playing?
I've been playing, I think my account says 2008. It's hard to believe. So I've been playing for some time. I think like most Eve players, I've been on and off. I started out, just as everybody in HiSec, and then I found myself, I found a real strong group of guys that I actually spent a significant amount of my Eve career with. But since then, a significant amount of them have stopped playing the game. I still get them online, but they're playing other games. And so I've had to go and find myself, another entity to kind of align myself with, which is, you kind of want to, considering I was with, those guys for the good part of maybe 6 or 7 years, you want to kind of align yourself with people who you get along with personally, but also kind of have the same levels of commitment and kind of skill to the game. So like it's not a simple thing to find your next home when you find yourself kind of wandering about.
Yeah. One thing I remember being when I first started out, I came into the game and I was in a corporation. Of course, I'm West Coast US, so I was playing with Australians because I would play at like midnight, and that would be their, when they were playing. So I had a small corp that I joined that were Australians, and I remember one guy leaving saying, you know how it is, guys, it's time for me to move up to a different corp. I'll see you later. And I was like, wow, this is an amazing game. Nobody takes that personally when you leave a corporation. You just say like, you know how it is, I'm going up to a bigger league. Because at the time, you were working your way up different corporations, different alliances until you got to the big leagues and stuff. There was a whole like social mobility was completely different in EVE at the time. Like you had to prove yourself at every level that you could go on to the next level.
Yeah, there's a certain point though where I feel like people may disagree, but I feel like I've reached a point of which my experience is so high that I can maybe choose a bit more who I want to go with. Whereas before I remember joining the first nullsec alliance that I did. It was this alliance called Point of No Return, or a corporation called Point of No Return, and there was, I remember like flying out with my Ishtar, just like, it was in a pure ratting fit, and I remember my first PvP battle and just getting blown away, and I'm like, I can tank all the rats in the world, but for some reason this one ship can kill me. This is ridiculous. So I had a lot of learning to do at that point.
Oh, that's awesome. So okay, small gang, that's the kind of where you do stuff. Experienced player on and off since 2008. And that's okay, great. So now now we know where you're coming from. Okay, also with me today is and you've already met him yesterday or a couple days ago, Nick Bison. He's a miner, really, right, Nick?
Yeah, miner, industrialist, a little PvP on the side, and a low sec right now too.
That's right. I called you an industrialist, but really you were in CO2 and you were a PvPer and you did all that stuff too.
Right now, definitely more on the industry side than anything else.
Yeah. All right. Also with us is one of our TIS guys, Spod. How's it going, Spod?
Hey, it's a bit late, but I'm still around, unfortunately.
Well, if you fall over and fall asleep, we'll understand you're over there. Well, actually, Strata, you're from...
I've had too much coffee for that.
Okay, good. Strata, you're from out there too, right? You're from Europe?
I'm from England, but I'm living in Atlanta right now, East Coast USA. So I'm,
Oh, cool.
This time slot's good for me. I've had my dinner, and I'm ready to sit down and chat Eve.
Excellent. All right, great. And then rounding out the team today is Grigorin, who's with us as well, our researcher for some nullsec stuff. I thought you were in a fleet, Grigorin. I guess he is in a fleet. So he'll be around. He's in channel. Okay, we'll start off with, and by the way, the fleet we'll talk about later that he's on. Let's start off with the big news of the day. Actually, this is the main thing. I think we can bring this up. This is, okay, so I'll just read it from CCP Paradox. You'll remember Paradox because he did that. I believe he was in the tech presentation that happened a few weeks ago on CCP's channel on Twitch. But more importantly, he's the one that introduced the drone changes where the drones wouldn't be able to attack NPC ships. One of the byproducts of that is that you could not assign your drones to someone who was shooting at NPC ships, which has a big effect on groups like incursion runners, where that's a common practice. It's also a common practice for multi-boxers too. But the latest information on that, well, let me just say there was some complaints about that. A lot of people actually, we just heard one guy deleted all his drone skills and got 66 million in injectors. He's just moving all his drone skills to something else, right? So that's what he did upon hearing the news. And then CCP reversed themselves today. So that guy drained his drone skills and he did it for nothing because they're reversing themselves and saying, let's actually just read this real quick. So from CCP Paradox says, "Hi everyone. I have updated the original forum topic regarding drone behavior changes with the following statement, and I'm cross-posting here for visibility. A lot of healthy conversation surrounding recent drone changes is happening, and we have been monitoring and discussing your feedback internally. Our goal is to make PvE activities with drones a more attentive player experience that relies less on low or no attention gameplay moving forward. But the unintended impact on how the drone assist functions in certain scenarios is something we are not happy with. For this reason, we will be changing the drone behavior back to how it was before Tuesday's patch in an upcoming deployment. We should have news for you on timing tomorrow. We gathered a lot of valuable data and feedback from you and the CSM in the last couple of weeks on this matter, and Would like to thank everyone who shared their thoughts with us. Fly safe, 07. So there you have it. CCP reverting their second change in as many days. What do you guys think?
Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah. It's I guess it's very interesting that CCP, I guess from the pure management of the community standpoint, are not wanting to rock the boat at this point. It sounds like
You can have some happy incursion pilots, because I think it completely destroyed one of the major parts of an incursion.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I'm kind of mixed mind on it. There's, part of me that, we've heard about, like the incursion runners and, many of the gameplay styles. Yeah, absolutely get it. But had the compromise, had there been some middle ground of having the drone auto aggro still off, but allowing everything else, so that that way, it make the drones just won't dash off and attack everything out there. Still requires player input, but still allow the support in assigning your drones elsewhere.
Yeah, maybe if it worked from the standpoint of if the assisted player activated a module, that's the way it should have worked, right? If it did work,
it's a bit
in
of an
that
awkward
sense.
one, because I know a few guys in my alliance have complained that, and this is, I kind of agree with getting rid of this behavior, but it's frustrating for people that did it, where if you were sitting there in an orca and you were going to mine away in high sec, you would set your drones to guard yourself, or so when the little NPCs that turn up, and generally they're not a problem. It's two little low-level rats that come along and they shoot at you and they do next to no damage. But if you leave them long enough, they'll mess you up. So what the typical technique is, you set out 4 mining drones and a singular combat drone. So that singular combat drone keeps them off you, because eventually the NPCs actually sometimes will go for your mining drones. And this drone change obviously stopped that. So if you couldn't go completely AFK and completely safe in an orca anymore, which I think was an intended and good thing. To have that rolled back, I'm not too sure. I'm sure some of my alliance guys will disagree and they want that back. But
yeah, well, what were some of the complaints that people had about that? You just mentioned one right there. That user story of mining AFK couldn't happen anymore. We know incursions were hit pretty hard, because basically if you multi-box incursions, you need to put all your drones assisting one pilot, so you don't have to constantly move around 9 accounts to target each time, which would be nearly impossible. So you assign it all to one character, and that character gets all the firepower of the 9 accounts. So that's that. I think Sharate talked about a bunny too, where one guy takes the drones and heads for the small stuff, and that's what you wipe out. I think this was for invasions and stuff. So there's a few scenarios. What are the scenarios, if any, do you guys know of?
I think there's some problems with the Abyss, and there was also some missions and just general ratting in certain areas, like the Gristas regions, gets a lot harder, because suddenly in the Gristas they like to jam, and they can, in certain circumstances, almost jam you out completely. And if you're completely jammed by NPCs, there is nothing you can do apart from hope that your drones will kill the guy that's jamming you. And now, well, not now, because obviously they're rolling it back, but with the drone change, you couldn't do anything about it. Your drones would just sit there and stare while you're sat scrammed and dying slowly. And then there's almost the same exact issue with the Abyss, where there will be certain rooms with jamming NPCs. They jam you, you can't fight back. Game over, essentially. That's a guaranteed loss when you hit one of those rooms.
But isn't this behavior that would happen if you had
Which is a little bit unfair, to be honest. Yeah, to have a guaranteed loss room, because even if doesn't matter whether you're using a healer with a healer with drones, or healer, however you want to say it, or you're using a vagabond with cannons, that room is an instant loss, because you're going to be jammed and you cannot do anything about it.
Strata, did you finish your point?
I mean, it's one of these things where, it sounds like the drones themselves have been used as a bit of a crutch in terms of certain mechanics that maybe should have been changed before.
You hearing something
if,
I'm
if
not?
we're
Oh, yeah. Can you not hear Strata?
No, not at all.
No wonder you're talking over him.
he's muted me.
Oh, okay.
That's,
Hold on.
It's very rude. It's okay.
I fixed it. Got it. Sorry about that. I'm not that much of an asshole, I promise.
Okay. Let's go. Go ahead, Strata.
Yeah, I mean, I think the issue is potentially that this is sort of a crutch that people have been using, and maybe if CCP could design around these issues in the future, then they could revert this change. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, the method of AFK drone aggro is a bit boring, and it's not. I don't think it's good for the game if people are relying on this as a way to play the game. I don't think.
Yeah, let me push. You're a small gang guy. I appreciate your point of view. You get in there, you actually play the game. Let me push back a little though, because there's some people who kind of like to relax with the game, so they kind of want to feel like they're making progress, but they don't want to give it their full attention. They might even be running another PvP character on the side while they roam, so they kind of feel like they're making some money on one screen over here, while at the same time they're trying to do some activity or something. But it's that kind of like, I'm just Bitcoin mining, basically. I know I'm making a little value, and it's a soothing thing.
Yeah, I know. I definitely understand it. I mean, I think maybe the reason why CCP went after this specifically is because it actually is mostly used for drone ratters in null space, and I think a general thing that they're going after is the creation of ISK in this game, and they're trying to reduce it. And I think they thought this was a way of reducing the multi-boxed variant of the game to reduce that multi-boxing aspect and allow people to maybe play the game a bit more. But I feel like if they had changed the overall systems at the same time, so it limits multi-boxing, but it improves your if you can concentrate on the game and play it proper, like with full attention, if that improved your overall income, that would be, I think, a better balance to strike, rather than to remove things and give nothing back. And I saw that with the ESS changes, and they quickly rolled it back slightly just to give a bit more of a carrot there for some players.
Yeah, here's some pushback. Not pushback. I just used that term. But here's the other side of the coin, which I think is what you're talking about. First, let me try to get Hateless in here. I like his take on a lot of the missioning parts of this. We always want that. Jump in, Hateless, if you can. Okay. One of the things that they were that CCP at one point was trying to get us to do, and I believe this point comes from my friend Araya, who's brilliant. He said, I think it was him, that CCP is trying to make NPCs with AI perform like PvP players. So these drone changes didn't affect anything to do with PvP. You could still use them in PvP any way you wanted to, or the way they worked. But you couldn't with NPCs. Yet the NPCs were supposed to behave like real pilots. So why take away the opportunity to fight NPCs like you would fight a normal pilot? And I thought that was an interesting take on it.
Yeah, wouldn't it be very interesting if you had maybe more burners, like burner NPCs in space that gave you good rewards for going and fighting them? That would be an interesting concept, right? You go hunt around and find them and kill them for a bounty, and therefore it's an active PvP process. And hey, you might even have a ship that can fight against other players whilst doing that, so you're not fully defenseless. Like a lot of the PvE setups are. So, but I feel like there's a lot that CCP could do. And your point about these AFK sources of ISK, I feel like there's actually quite a lot of that we don't have to go down the route of in space sources of ISK. You can do the manufacturing, the invention, copying BP blueprints. I think there's a lot of these passive sources that a lot of players don't even especially PvP players, they don't get into because they don't think it applies to them, or they don't want to investigate. It's really easy to go and just plop in a belt or an anom and do that.
Yeah.
And,
so that passive money making a little at a time should be more, say, industrial based, or some people say it should just be mining that's like that or something.
I think that if somebody's going to be rewarded, they should be creating something.
Well, we're done. That's I think he just solved our problem. Hey, Liz, good to have you here. Thanks for joining us. We're on our first topic, talking about the reversal of the drone changes that happened Tuesday. What do you think of those?
So, trying to ask why CCP would make that change, and trying to kind of understand the kind of way that they've been going, in the direction that they've been going. We see them leaning more towards things need to produce a good or service in the game to be rewarded. The invasions as a whole made Triglavian materials. So you made T2 Triglavian ships. And Abyss as a whole doesn't just print liquid ISK, it prints materials and blueprints to build Triglavian ships, which is a service to the game. And they're kind of moving away from liquid ISK more to material goods that you get to trade for. And that is the kind of the direction that they've been going.
Mm-hmm.
And
it gives interception.
It kind of falls in line with that.
It gives interception possibilities too, right? Because you have to take that thing to the market to sell it to get the ISK. You don't just get the ISK.
Yeah, so I think that's important. And with the drone change, I think that why they made that change initially was because they wanted to move in that direction where a player actually has to actively be engaging to do something. They don't want players just sitting around wisping ISK out of thin air. Mm-hmm. But on their reversal on it, I don't know if it was the right move, but there was a huge outcry, and I made a video on the effects of the drone changes because it did affect a lot of things, and it made drone bunnying in PvE not possible, which I think is a problem. What is
drone bunnying?
So there's a tactic that you can do, and you can assist a drone to a friend. And then if that friend engages in a target, the drone will then follow what your friend is doing. It does require activity, and it requires you to actually be engaged with the content, but it's kind of at the same level of input broadcasting. For example, if you get 9 Dominixes and assign drones to a Loki, are you really playing the 9 accounts that are in the Dominixes?
Can I clarify? They did get rid of their exemption to input broadcasting, right? They said that wasn't okay, or that is okay?
Input broadcasting is not allowed in any form.
Yeah, because it was at one point, as I remember back
in the past. It was.
Yeah.
Up until I want to say 2014 or so, input broadcasting was allowed, and Iris Boxer was a big thing back then. People would be mining in 20 accounts. There'd frequently be Dommy gangs roaming around. There'd frequently be balls of nightmares doing incursions because they were able to input broadcast with themselves.
Right.
Real quick, we're in a rabbit hole, but I want to keep everybody with us. And so just so you know, input broadcasting, for those that don't know, is one command over multiple clients. So if you have 10 clients up, you would hit one button and all those clients would fire at the same time. And that allowed you to multiply your power in a way that was unhealthy for the game. And that went on for a long time. But as more and more people learned how to do it, and they used this program called IS Boxer, it started to become a bigger and bigger problem. Still, nobody complained about it until somebody used it in PvP with bombers. And then it became too hot an issue. And CCP was like, nope, we're going to cut that out. And that's how that got changed.
Yeah, so it is an interesting decision for them because in a lot of ways, and I think this was back before the time of skill injectors and all that kind of stuff. So they were generating a lot of money off of multiple accounts that people were using. Is my even and if we want to go back even further, we can talk about off-grid links as being another force multiplier that a player could have that was very little interaction with the game in terms of multiple accounts, but actually improving your power within the universe, and that was also removed. So they seem to be moving in this direction, and they've been doing it for a while. So I don't think it's anything new.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that there's again, just over the last couple years, with all the changes they've made everything much more expensive. They've made in terms of the ore changes, et cetera. So everybody's feeling it, especially the people who are out ratting. I mean, I think for the most part, especially these lower end players, are these people who aren't really, they're not really rolling in it. So again, I feel like if you get kicked too many times, you're just, well, listen, I'm not, I can understand a little bit of adjustment, but if you keep hitting me, then why am I here? So I think maybe that was the reason for CCP's rollback of this. They maybe thought that they pushed it a little too far.
Here's I think one of the interesting things that happens, and here's a little bit of history about EVE Online. In 2011, they came out with this really long promised walking in stations, which is what this show's named after, right? And we're talking in stations, but in 2009, 2008, they were talking about walking in stations, and you'd be able to, meet with your friends in a physical place in a virtual world. And there was a lot of excitement around that because it was expanding the universe. But when they delivered it, it didn't deliver much of the promise at all. And there was a lot of waiting for it. And it actually, what came at a time when there was a series of events that upset the player base. So they got upset by Dust 514 being promised to PS3 only instead of PC games. So they were kind of locked out of that. They got mad about some DDoS attacks that were coming in hot and heavy. And they got mad at the Nexus store.
The Monocle.
Yeah, the Nexus store that had very expensive items. So there was a series of events that happened that really made people mad. And then you delivered on this walking in stations promise, and you realize they're not anywhere near where they should have been to make this a full-blown feature, and people just went nuts. So what happened at the exact same time as that was happening is Skyrim came out. And Skyrim was like a massive success. It's one of the games of the decade, really. And so it gave people a really good alternative to all the stuff that was going wrong in EVE Online. Okay, so that's what happened there. But if you fast forward to 2019, you have a little game called WoW that was relaunching itself in classic mode. So you could go back and play all the stuff that you never played because you got into WoW too late, right? Because it's a progressive game. And so a lot of people were feeling nostalgic to begin with. But at the exact same time that came out, like down to the week, CCP had put Blackout in place. And for the first few weeks, Blackout was pretty popular. But around the time that WoW kicked in, which was, I think, 45 or 50 days after, it ended up being a really good alternative for people who were really upset. And it hit the same people, right? The people that were upset about Blackout because they couldn't do their mining. They couldn't use their oracles or any of that stuff. Those are the type of people that they might actually like WoW, right? They might have been WoW players. So the point is an opportunity for people to go do something else. And EVE saw at least like a 20-30% drop in nullsec, at least I think in Test and Imperium and Horde too, right? They got decimated by this thing, so they hated it, and it was reversed. And here again, you have a change that really hits people who kind of, I call them grazers. They graze in the game with AFK gameplay, and you're hitting them at a time when another spectacular game that's been in development for like a decade comes out called, I always say it wrong, but it's Cyberpunk, or what's it called?
I don't think anybody's leaving on EVE Online for Cyberpunk. It's Cyberpunk, definitely
2077, yeah.
Cyberpunk 2077. No, I'm not saying they're leaving, but the point is CCP's like, whoa, let's not give anybody a reason to take off in addition to the idea that something else might attract them. I don't know if this is why they reversed it. I don't think so. But if it is, I like that CCP's learning about the timing of when you do changes. Take it away.
I think there's definitely a timing thing between different game companies these days. You can definitely see different game companies doing certain events. I was predicting based off of last year's Christmas event, whatever, that it would be maybe next week, but that they might launch it. But again, it's this week. Is that a reason are they giving us more SP because they don't want us playing Cyberpunk? There's definitely a thing for CCP to look at as the launch of other games.
Sure. I'm sure they would be smart to do it. Anyway, yeah. Let's wrap this section up because we this is too long here. By the way, Nick, was there something else happening with ice mining? Because somebody brought it up, and we dealt with it like a couple of days ago. But maybe he didn't see that show.
Not that I'm aware of. I'm going to be actually checking that out tomorrow and Saturday.
Okay.
Just kind of seeing where they're happening.
So maybe something broke.
Check the respawns.
Yeah. All right. I thought something broke today. I wasn't sure, but
something did break today. Are you ready for it?
Yeah, I'm bringing it up now. Something did break. It wasn't ice mining. It was... Okay, let me read it. Everyone, this is from CCP Dopamine. He's a senior community developer. So he says, everyone, the White Storm data from the Winter Nexus, that's the event that started today, are incorrectly rewarding some capsuleers with Nightmare BPOs, that's Blueprints Originals, as opposed to the single-use BPC, Blueprint Copy, that were intended to drop. This bug will be fixed in the next patch tomorrow. For a small number of players who received a Nightmare BPO in the meantime, do not trade them with other players or create extra copies using the original blueprints. We will be replacing all acquired Nightmare BPOs with single-use BPCs after this bug is fixed and reversing any transactions that might have taken place. Let me just say this. The reason he's warning players and he wants this public is it's a database issue. And if you trade it, you create more and more activities on the database. It's harder for them to reverse. So they're saying freeze. It's a mistake. Don't do anything with it. It's just going to complicate our effort to reverse it. And they're warning you not to do that.
They can see every transaction. They can see every single thing that you do with that blueprint, and they will reverse it.
See if you're naughty or nice, right?
Yeah. So what's the big deal about, what's the big difference between a BPO and a BPC when it comes to nightmares?
Well, so nightmares are not supposed to be an unlimited source. So if one player can infinitely make copies, that person has basically a faucet of income that they can print out at will. And if that person prints out enough, then the cost of a nightmare will drop down to that of a tier 1 battleship.
Yeah, that is, for anybody who's played EVE Online and knows that that's a faction battleship, right? And an original allows you to create unlimited amounts of whatever's on that blueprint. A copy is limited, and in this case, BPCs, those are copies, they're limited to 1. So every time you get that loot drop, you get to create 1 of these battleships. But an original allows you not only to make as many copies as you want to hand out to all your friends, but you can build unlimited amount of ships off it, which is clearly not intended. No faction anything has a BPO, right? Faction is strictly loot.
You can also research it and bring it up to 2010 or 1020. Yeah, it's 1020, and make it a lot easier to produce. So there's a lot that you can do with a blueprint original.
Yeah, 1020 is just the maximum you can research something. And if you research it, you bring down your building costs, which saves you money. That's why you would research. Okay.
All the faction items are either, like you said, loot drops or LP store.
Loot drops, LP store, and then the copies are 1 or 5 run. Or I think in some cases there's 10 run things, but yeah.
Is ammo more?
Or the ammo would be more.
Generally, yeah.
Yeah.
Got it. That's great. So this is meant as a loot drop, and it dropped as something that wasn't supposed to happen. So for players that saw that, they were laughing really hard because that is a tremendous error. And it's a small database error, but it's a huge implications in the game. So they caught it day 1. They're going to fix it day 2.
Yeah, a 1 somewhere that was supposed to be a 0.
All right.
That's all it takes.
But if only there was. Okay, Winter Nexus. That's the event that dropped this loot. Has anybody been playing Nexus, the Winter Nexus? The event,
So
Metaliminal
the
store?
exploration in low sec is incredibly rewarding. I'd encourage people to go try it and play with it and have fun with it. The high sec can be rewarding. The high sec combat. I haven't done any of the exploration, so go try exploration, guys.
What kind of ship do I need? Just
for exploration. If you go to the fitting window and find frigates, there's a fit that CCP has provided for you in the fitting window. Like every player has this fitting available. That fit should be sufficient for doing exploration.
Okay, so it's just a pure scanning ship, probably, right? It's
yeah.
not a
So
combat site. Okay.
Yeah, you just need to scan down a data site and then go hack it. And they're pretty easy. I think that they're level 4 data sites. So I think what my stream was saying, I don't understand what exactly this means. But my stream was saying that you need 83 or 85 sensor strength to scan down sites, and then you just need to successfully do the hack to get the loot.
So what sorts of loot are we getting out of these exploration sites?
In high sec, I'm not sure, but I know that in low sec, the exploration sites are dropping blueprints for the new implants, and also I got a shield slave today while doing combat sites. They may drop. I got a screenshot from a viewer of mine who was doing it for 4 hours. He had a good 1 to 2 billion ISK in his cargo.
That's nice.
Yeah.
From 4 hours.
So these are the new capacitor regeneration implants. So
yes.
Yeah.
So really cool stuff. And then I was doing combat sites today. They're quite fun. I got some thorough testing in on high sec sites and a little bit of testing on low sec because there's a little bit more involved in low sec. But we were thoroughly able to test that the high sec sites are consistently dropping between the worst drop I got was only 4 or 5 million ISK, but the best drop had 40 million ISK. So I'd say an average of 20 to 25 million ISK per site. And then the required tank to complete the site is somewhere around 400 to 500 incoming DPS tank. And it is 30% EM, 30% thermal, 20% kinetic, and 20% explosive damage. In that profile, I have about 50% resists across the board. I was seeing peaks of 250 DPS with an average of around 200 coming in while doing the sites. And then, so 400 to 500 incoming DPS, and then you need to be able to deal with frigates. And a pro tip is if you have a battleship-sized weapon, I would really recommend a stasis webifier and a grappler. Those two together will allow you to hit the frigates, even with some pretty poor skills. And then you can clear the sites with 500 DPS is what I had in the Gnosis, or not the Gnosis, but the wow, I cannot remember. The Praxis I was playing today had about 500 DPS, and it's clearing them in about 5 to 10 minutes. It's not too painful.
Okay, so these are the combat sites.
Yeah, these are the combat sites. And then in low sec, 400 to 500 DPS for the regular spawns, and then there's a battleship spawn at the end that hits like a truck. And if you can deal with that battleship spawn, you can do them in low sec, which is incredibly rewarding. My first drop from low sec had 125 million ISK in it, and a really nice blueprint copy. And then the second site that I completed ended with a high grade, one of the new high grade cap blueprint copies with another 120 million ISK. I was doing it in a Vagabond that was 300 million ISK. I'll be publishing fits after this show.
Where are you going to publish them? Where do you publish that stuff?
Eve Workbench. I'll give you guys a link in chat here.
Okay. We should actually start copying your fits and putting them on our website. Start building up a library of Hateless and Fonsui's fits, maybe Sutonia too. We have a ton of great players that are part of TIS. Okay, cool. And of course, there's the 13 days of Christmas, which actually started. So you want to be logging in, picking up those rewards just by logging in. And you have 13 rewards, but you have to get 1 per day. And if you do it now, it's like a advent calendar. You'll have 1 little chocolate per day until you get to Christmas. And so by the time you get to the 24th, you'll have all the rewards and all the XP that they give. But if you miss some days because of holidays and everything, you have until January 5th to actually complete the 13 logins to get those rewards. Okay. Anything else hateless on this thing? Have you experienced the weather effects of the ice storms?
So the weather effects are really simple. It's cold. So things that involve heat are less painful. So the thermal damage is reduced by 10%. So there's a 10% resistance bonus in the systems with the storm. And then overheating your modules is better as well. It's
encouraged.
Yeah, it's really encouraged. There's it's I think 25% bonus in the center of it, and that's for the center. The perimeter systems or the systems around have a lesser effect, but with the same bonuses but less percentage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So
and there are.
Go ahead.
Does that understand that proper? That the overheating of your module will damage it less quickly?
Yes. I was able to overheat a hardener, an afterburner, and a repper for a good 2 minutes, and it didn't even hit 40% damage.
Because you got ice cooling. It's like liquid cooling in your computer.
Baby.
That's hilarious.
That's right.
There was a question for you. I think it's for Hateless, but maybe other people can answer this too. From Genghis Munchin or something. Sorry, I'm bad with names. It's just a known fact.
I did see that. It looks like he's. What do you think about a grappler and a painter? I think is the question that you're.
That's right.
Talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends. There's a big old it depends. For guns, I would 100%. So if you're using autocannons. By the way, all these sites, all the rats, they hang out within 15 kilometers. So use close range weapon systems. Don't bother with the long range stuff.
Good tip.
Yeah, really good tip. So a grapple plus web together is a 90% movement speed reduction overall on the NPCs, because the grapple gives 80% at its closest range, and then the web gives 50 or 60. So it ends up being around 70 to 90% speed reduction. That is far more good or far more beneficial to weapon systems that have tracking, so guns, than any target painter will ever do. And then it also benefits anybody else shooting it, which I guess the target painter does too. And then the other thing, so if you drop the web for the target painter, it might be helpful for missiles. I haven't played with it a lot, and it depends on your skills what's actually better. I would try both and see how it works. And ideally for a torpedo boat, if you're doing a torpedo practice or something, you might want to do all three, because they don't stack against each other.
What about a tracking computer? Would that be how does that equate?
The web ends up being more powerful, and then the grapple is a little bit more powerful than the web, where they like to hang out with you.
Mm-hmm.
So the web plus grapple together, they don't have any stacking penalties, and the tracking computer, I'd put it between the target painter and the webs, because of course the tracking computer doesn't work on missiles, and the target painter works on everything.
Right. All right, cool. And it's funny that things aren't naturally slow inside these ice storms, right? I would think not only do you not
really
overheat, it's being automatic.
Reasonably fast.
Actually, if you think about it, Masro, you can go faster because your engines don't overheat.
Because you can overheat your prop mods.
Yeah, but when you're cold, you move slower. But I don't know. I love the overheating being extended. That's awesome. Good touch.
Well, this is also part of the Abyssal event that they've got on the what are they calling it? Sorry,
it's called
the combat arena.
Yeah, Chilling Spree.
Yes.
Ice Storm Filaments. Abyssal Proving Grounds. Is that one?
That weather effect is in the Abyssal Proving Grounds, the one that we are seeing in the multiple stars.
Yeah. You know what I like about this? It was explained to me that the Ice Storm Filaments get you right to the storm. Like you use the filament.
They do.
And they give those to you. And they give those to you when you log in. That's part of the gifts of 13 days. So
starting tomorrow, we'll be seeing those filaments. They also drop from the sites too. So if you run a few sites, you'll probably come across one and you'll be able to jump again somewhere else. And, it's really neat.
If you don't want to, you can probably sell it on the market, which means you can buy these on the market probably.
Yeah.
And there's different filaments for different areas of space. So there appears to be high-sec storm filaments, but I believe there are also low-sec and null-sec storm filaments. So
there are.
Make sure you use the right one for whatever you're trying to do.
So there is a 1-person, 5-person, and 10-person filament of each of the three kinds. So there's the count is you can do 1, 5, or 10, and then there is a low-sec, high-sec, and null-sec variant. So each of those can permutate with each other however which way you want. So you can do 5 people in low sec, or 10 people in null sec, or 1 person in low sec, or any permutation of that you would like. And they're named after reindeer. And there's 9 reindeer. If we include Rudolph.
Yeah, we heard that.
Coincidence? I think not.
One of them was Dancer, and Ashtarothi yesterday was saying,
Dancer,
like,
Prancer, Vixen. I don't know all the names, but yeah.
He was all, pick up a Dancer. And I was like, I'm not sure you want to phrase it that way.
Is it Dancer that's the high sec one?
Yeah, I think that's the high sec one. What's cool is you can go home. Like, let's say you rob an ESS, then you can use one of those to find your way back.
Yeah, you can pick up a Dancer and go home.
Yeah, pick up a Dancer and go home. I think that's what he said. Pick up a Dancer and go home. And I was like, phrasing.
Or if you're running a low sec, you can bring a high sec filament with you and then guarantee your trip back to high sec, so that you don't have to go through low sec gates. Yes. And one other note is these aren't ordered the way you would think they are. So the high sec are the least rewarding and easiest to do. And the null sec are in the middle. They're the kind of average rewarding, average difficulty, and then low sec is the hard one with the best reward. So if you want the good loot, you go to low sec.
Isn't that the case? All the good stuff's in low sec these days. All right, let's move on. Thanks very much for that review. We talked about that yesterday, so if you like this and you didn't see yesterday's shows, check it out with Ashtarothi. We go through this again. And we will continue to go through this because we want people to get rewards that are really good. We heard that Crimson Harvest was really good. Hateless, did you think that was a good event? That's the October event.
Crimson Harvest was a blast. That's all I'm going to say. It was a lot of fun. They had 2 different site variations with a difficult variation on the 2 sites. And they required a very different fit for each site. They played on different rules, and you needed different things to clear the sites effectively. But they were a lot of fun. They were honestly a blast.
Yeah, and so this one's looking like it might be the same. So get involved in it. One last thing. Go ahead, Strata.
I said the biggest for any PvPers out there, the biggest change during Crimson Harvest was the change to, was it 80% loot drop from 50, which was, or was it 90? I don't remember the exact percentage, but that was
90%.
Massive.
Well, they did.
That was the Halloween bonus because we had Halloween going on, and not this year, but last year they did 100%, and a lot of people got really upset
which was
about
apparently
that.
a mistake. With RMT or something like that. Yeah.
Or padding. I think they padded kill boards and that sort of stuff. But so they went to 90%. They're constantly trying things. One thing you should know about these events, this is where CCP tries out some new stuff. And then if people like it, that gets turned into a more permanent part of the game. It's not explicit, but...
I really want these high sec filaments to come back.
Yeah, I know. I think people want those. The filaments themselves were experimented with 1 year ago at the last Christmas event. That's where they were dreamed up by CCP Rise. And is it Signal that's the programmer with Rise? Yeah, I think he's on the team. I think that's his name. Sorry if it's not. Yeah, okay. So let's move on to some... Or is there anything else with the Nexus stuff?
It's fun. Go try it.
All right. Absolutely. Even I'm going to try it. And I only do trading and industrial stuff these days. Okay, nullsec. Let's get into some news there. Red Alert Coalition staging Fortizar kill timer today. Dreadbomb, Nightmare Fleet, and Wrecking Crew Macarial Fleet with carrier support fought against Fire Coalition Munin Fleet and a Cerberus. Let's take a look at what happened with that battle. There it is. And yeah, it looks like Fire Coalition took a beating. They came out at 25% efficiency, which means that, people, they got the best of them were Dreadbomb, and they've been very successful lately. And Trigger Happy was in there too. It's good to see them. Oops, I didn't mean to hit that button. Let's go back. So yeah, I think that worked out pretty well for the aggressors and not so well for Fire Coalition, which is led by Legion of Exdeath.
Well, this was defensive red alert stuff, wasn't it?
What's that? Oh, yeah.
It was in defensive red alerts. Fortizar, so it seems like they're being pushed out of the region by...
Which is kind of sad. Tell us a little bit. You know Red Alert. Tell us about them and why they're special.
So, to me, they're like the better part of what's left of Provi Block, because you had CVA split off one way after the fall of Provi Block, and then you had what ultimately became Red Alert. Of course, there's the other groups that all tons and tons of groups in Provi Block. It was a huge thing, went all kinds of different ways. But the sort of two headliners in terms of major groups were CVA going one way and Red Alert going the other way, which was originally made up of Total Eclipse. God, the names have escaped me. Total Eclipse, Apocalypse Now, Sorry in Advance, and the Two Maidens, One Chalice thing. Yeah.
I hate that name.
And they've just had mishap after mishap and trouble after trouble, unfortunately. Because they moved out to Great Wildlands to sort of start life again. They were trying to do this sort of not red, don't shoot continuation in that area. As far as I know, like it seemed to go well enough. They'd settled down. They had some moons. They were getting on perfectly fine, as far as I'm aware. But then they had some political drama where Two Maidens, One Chalice disappeared, and I think things just one of those things where it just naturally slows down. Apocalypse Now has been, I don't want to say dying because I don't think that's fair, but just quietening down a lot, and their activities just almost disappeared. So, and that was sort of their big, in terms of member count, that was their headliner at that point.
Yeah,
they almost disappeared.
They're a lot smaller than they were.
Yeah, Red Alert, I think, at its peak, sort of just as Provi Block died, they could probably field 30, 40 men or more, and now they struggle probably to get more than 5 humans at the keyboard.
Oh, that's really small.
And I hope they don't take that as an insult. It's just the truth, unfortunately. And I don't know where they're going next, but there seems to be a bit of, whether it's bad blood or whether it's, is it a vendetta or is it just a circumstance that Wrecking Crew, who evicted them initially from Providence, have followed them here?
Yeah, let's actually make that clear. So Red Alert were essentially the police of Providence. They were like the military part that would kind of patrol the area and fight a different way than, say, the normal Provi Block. So Providence is an area where if you're neutral, you can come into the area. You could have at the time. And nobody would bother you unless it was a pirate. But they had a police force that would kill the pirates for you. So as a young player or a new player or an industrialist, you could go into Providence and try to live your life in nullsec without having to do all the things that a military PvPer has to do when they go into nullsec. But that dream was, and it lasted a long time. We're talking over a decade. Crushed recently when Wrecking Crew put too much pressure on not only Red Alert but Provi Block as a whole, and they started to break up because they couldn't really bring themselves to fight the way they needed to in order to win that engagement. So part of Providence went north to Syndicate, that would be CVA, and part of it, actually Red Alert, went over to what's it called? Great Wildlands.
Great Wildlands.
Yeah.
Red Alert, the original idea was organized operations to defend each other's space, such as having an alt corp for Entosis that they could pass between alliances. And they had a lot of really good alliances with, ideas with Red Alert.
Yeah. Well, so anyway, Wrecking Crew, at least a couple of the alliances from Wrecking Crew, not the whole group, right? Well, Wrecking Crew, let's say, had some alliances that really wanted to live in Providence and be a part of Providence, but they didn't like the leadership provided by Provi Block. So they sided with Provi Block's enemy, Wrecking Crew, and, those guys are still in Providence doing what they wanted to do, live in Providence. But a couple of the groups that really just wanted to fight have chased Red Alert out to the Great Wildlands. And so...
Yeah, I heard someone from Dreadbomb jokingly describe this as reverse Stockholm Syndrome because some of these people who followed Red Alert over don't know who else to fight, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, the question is, did the Wrecking Crew follow them, or is Wrecking Crew doing things in the area and they just happen to be in the way?
We'll have to ask
From
them.
for what's being publicly said, it seems like only one RC alliance followed them. It's just that Dreadbomb had deployed to Scalding Pass, which is the next region over. So it's
They're
right
in the
there.
area.
They needed extra help.
I see. All right, so it's calling your friends to do a thing. Okay. All right, well, that's what's going on there. In the war news, back in Delve, Keepstar is actually being hit right now in period basis and HIX. Let's actually show where that is. You can see its choke point coming up to Delve. And that we expect. Were you in that, Gagarin? Gagarin, is it dead?
It's close to dead.
It's actually being destroyed right now.
Yeah.
Ooh.
It's not dead yet, but it's
not
getting
dead yet. That reminds me of Monty Python, right? I'm not dead yet.
Not dead yet.
All right, so the if you guys haven't seen that, I believe that's Life of Brian, I believe. Anyway, what else happened in that area? So that Keepstar will go down in just a few minutes, and on the reverse side, test Keepstar in OTAC SHTA, often known as OSHT, in Curse, has had its shields reinforced by the Initiative, which is on deployment in that same system. So they're going big, they're going right. Oh, it's the Holy Grail, not Life of Brian. Sorry, you're right. So well, embarrassing. The so the Keepstar that belongs to Test has been reinforced by the Initiative right where the Initiative is staged. And that is an interesting drama developing. Will Test go back and try to defend that, or are they too busy in Delve to turn back? They have said they want to move to Delve, so their priority is not to go back and defend all their spaces, but would they want one of their Keepstars destroyed by the Initiative? We'll have to see what happens there. Also in war news is another legacy move op is intercepted, I think, in the same area as before. Gregorian, you know about this one, right?
Are you talking about the other one that went through the 49 TAC regional gate?
Yeah.
I think, wasn't this Brave?
Oh yeah, I was.
Yeah, sorry, I'm paying more attention to the fleet right now.
Yeah, I think I read that wrong, but it was Brave. Go back to that battle report.
Yeah.
So Brave move up.
Siberian squads did a move up a couple days ago, and they got hit. And then I guess Brave did another one. Brave did one that got hit yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm convinced. Backfield, right? Like, let's look at the map again. The war is raging pretty much in Delve now. Like, there's definitely a period basis, and let's go to the world view. And Aquarius that are involved as well. Fountain now is involved as well. So you have all three satellite regions to Delve involved where things are getting destroyed. But really the fight's in Delve. And in the backfield where Legacy Space is... Why is this taking so long? The internet is so not cooperative. Yeah, I think Dotlan is down. All right. I should start using the in-game map. That might work better. The backfield where Legacy Space is actually not doing very well. It was attacked by Bastion first, and now the Initiative's there in Curse moving into Catch. So they're kind of getting... I'm starting to get convinced that they're getting damaged back there. Now, whether they care about that or not, I don't know. But it's not like nothing's going on behind them. So the Imperium isn't doing a great job necessarily of surviving in Delve. They're dying slowly, maybe not fast enough for some people's taste. They are resisting in that way. But what they are able to do is to project behind enemy lines over to the enemy territory in Legacy Space and to do some damage there. And that looks like it's happening, at least with some... I don't know how much money is being destroyed or how many important infrastructures are being destroyed, but you have a Keepstar being reinforced and you have move ops being intercepted, and that's something. So the Imperium is putting something on the board as well, even though Delve is being body blowed to death. With the exception of the surprise attack on 1DQ that happened a couple days ago, The Imperium was showed a very healthy form up, and it was a very fast form up to repel 1DQ, an attack on that. But that was kind of a, let's see if we can do something here, and that didn't turn out to work out for Pappy at all.
I think there's got to be you've got to imagine that the Imperium are saying to themselves, let's split them up a little bit and make them, they can make a mistake in the allocation of numbers and maybe lose a bit more than they intend to. So it's pretty smart from the Imperial side. Don't fight the war on the other teams, at their whim. Try to take it to them and force them to do something that's a little bit more uncomfortable. It's an interesting tactic on their part.
So one last thing.
I want to know why they didn't start doing this earlier.
Well, because they were trying to defend their space, I assume.
Yeah, this is a desperation move. You'd rather just sit there and fight 1-to-1, but it's pretty clear that they can't. So again, it's a guerrilla warfare now, I think, by the Imperium, just to see if they can take little chunks out of them as they can.
Well, let's look at the ships involved here, because this is ships lost 4-4. Where's the actual amounts of ships? Here. Why isn't it obvious to me how many ships were involved? Risk loss, efficiency, brave. Okay, well, clearly we can see there's a lot. Oh, this is a bombing run. All right, well, a bombing run's going to do that sort of thing. But look how many bombers there are. Jesus Christ, you could have killed these guys 4 or 5 times over. Well, there are some capitals in there. But, clearly, like, assaulting their, brave on a move up is outnumbering them as well. Again, this is, capitals are big. You need to outnumber them. But these are bombers. That's what bombers do, etc. So it's a little bit different here. Maybe there's a different example, but they're not fighting against overwhelming odds in legacy space. So they actually can perform there. If you're fighting in Delve, you are outnumbered most of the time by Pappy. There's just too many combatants, so you can't do much. You can really just fold slowly, which is what's happening. You can counterpunch occasionally. Maybe you can take advantage of an error that Pappy screws up. You take advantage, you drop Titans at the right time, and you're able to kill some things and get out. You moonwalk right out of there. That's a victory. But other than those really rare circumstances, you are really just holding up your gloves and getting hit side to side. So that's why at this point where you've had all those floodplains taken and now they're actually being retaken, so all that extra fat's cut off, there's really just you now, and you're turtled up. The only way to really strike back is to do this, to deploy some of your allies to their region to see if you can do some damage. I don't know if this is damage. The Keepstar, if they take on that Keepstar and that Keepstar goes down, that's serious damage. This stuff, I'm not so sure. But it is something.
How much of this Oh, sorry, go ahead.
This would have been much more effective if they had done something like this when they started losing hold of Fountain rather than Delve.
Yeah, that's one of the criticisms that the Imperium really didn't. They shot the very first shot. They went out and wrecked Omist, and then nothing happened. Then they went right back and played defense. And so it was kind of like an impressive beginning for the Imperium, but then nothing came of it. And then they just started to lose space faster and faster and faster until all of a sudden we saw the giant Keepstar battles for NPC Delve. That's when it really got hot. Okay, so that is all that we have as far as the news. No, there's one more, and we buried the lead. This is the biggest news coming out of the war today. And that is that Sunday, the Imperium Coalition update meeting at 1700 is going to play, I don't know what you call it, with the Gobbins, which is the Horde Town Hall Q&A that happens at 2000. So this is the one that was postponed a few weeks ago, and I think it was when the T5Z Keepstar was dropped. If there was going to be a big fight there was going to be a big fight. If there was no big fight, then Gobbins was going to come out and have a Q&A session with Horde. He's done it once before in this war to kind of explain where everything is. So on the one hand, you have the Imperium Coalition having a big update at 1700 to talk about the war, where they're at with the war, so we'll know a lot more at that point. And Gobbins is going to do the same thing for Horde, and he's one of the leaders of the coalition. So you're going to see messaging coming out on Sunday about where the war is and what they intend to do on both sides. It's going to be very interesting. Right. That does it for us today. Wow, we tried for 20 minutes and we ended up getting an hour and 20. Someday we're going to narrow this down and make it actually condensed. But it's just too much fun talking about EVE Online. But I want to thank you guys for showing up today.
Seems like the Keepstar just died.
Perfect ending.
There you go.
HIX Keepstar.
Perfectly timed for the TIS.
Yeah.
I'm happy I got to make it. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah. Atlas, always welcome. We love dragging you in. You have great theory crafting, and we love your thoughts on almost everything, especially cats. And I need some tips from you, actually, pretty soon. All right. And Gregorian, and who else did Spod make it? Is he still awake? Good. And Strata and Nick, who was here. Thank you for joining in the conversation. Really appreciate it. And thank you guys for hanging out with us. And we will see you for the Friday night, or the Friday show, which will lead into Open Comms tomorrow. Please come around if you can. We'll see you same time tomorrow. Take care.
Cheers, mate.